Did you know that the United States spent $2 billion on a massive science project that could have revealed the secrets of the universe? But now it's just a tunnel that collects a Dallas suburb's rainwater. Or that after a massive environmental scandal, San Francisco is continuing to build housing on an abandoned nuclear testing laboratory, while doctors are detecting high levels of contaminants in the current residents. It goes without saying that even the best laid plans may go horribly wrong. To be successful, megaprojects require rigorous planning and a fair bit of luck. Throughout this video, we'll discuss some of the best megaproject ideas that ended in disaster. Failed megaprojects are not a new thing. Before the United States completed the Panama Canal in 1914, several other world powers tried and failed to connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. One of the first attempts was the Darien scheme. In the 1690s, the Kingdom of Scotland attempted to establish a new colony around the Gulf of Darien on the northeast coast of Panama that would manage an overall land passage linking the oceans. Unfortunately, the Darien scheme failed so miserably that it forever altered the trajectory of Scottish history. Poor design, incompetent administration, and outbreaks of illness all contributed to the failure of the program. Thousands of people died. International politics didn't help either. To get the land in Panama, Scotland had to seize the territory from the Spanish, which of course made the Spanish mad, but it also angered Scotland's English neighbors because Spain was a key ally to the English in England's war against France. Anyway, the project was abandoned around 1700. Unfortunately, this scheme was backed by a whopping 25% of all the money that was in circulation in Scotland. The failure of this megaproject resulted in the impoverishment of the kingdom, and it's said to have been one of the primary factors that led to Scotland joining England in 1707 to form the Kingdom of Great Britain. The Darien scheme was quite a disaster. Several thousand miles north of Panama, at the turn of the 20th century, the city of Los Angeles began the Aqueduct Project, which was key to transforming a small coastal town into America's second largest city. This project set out to transfer fresh water over 200 miles across the desert through man-made pipes and reservoirs from the Sierra Nevada. The St. Francis Dam, located in the San Francisco Canyon about 40 miles north of downtown Los Angeles, formed an artificial terminal lake which served as the city's primary water supply. When the architects were congratulating themselves for finishing ahead of schedule and under budget, no one expected their handiwork would create the worst man-made disaster in California history. With almost no warning at 11:57 p.m. on Monday, March 12, 1928, the St. Francis Dam collapsed. 12 billion gallons of water were released like a tsunami wave into the canyon, drowning hundreds of unsuspecting people, destroying homes and possessions along the way. In hindsight, the dam was the disaster waiting to happen. It was constructed on unsteady foundations in a region with geology that was completely inappropriate for building a dam of its size. Ultimately, a slew of technical failures contributed to the destabilization of the project that came crashing down. The people in charge were not found guilty of any wrongdoing, but the disastrous fall brought the long and illustrious career of William Mulholland, a self-taught civil engineer, over the project to an abrupt end. Let's fast forward about 50 years, and the United States and the Soviet Union are in a contest to prove dominance in all areas, especially in the field of science. It was an environment that then-President Ronald Reagan greenlit the Superconducting Super Collider, the SSC for short, for construction in Waxahachie, Texas, a small town 30 miles south of Dallas. The Super Collider was a large ring designed to collide subatomic particles at nearly the speed of light. These collisions would allow scientists to study the nature and laws of the subatomic world and would have allowed the United States to retain its leadership in the field of particle physics for years to come. The SSC was huge, with a projected circumference of 54 miles, encircling Waxahachie. The plan was to build the largest particle accelerator, 20 times larger than an existing or planned machine. Early construction on the project started in the late 1980s, but by the early 1990s, around 15 miles of the tunnels and 17 access shafts had been drilled into the site. But by October 1993, Congress had canceled the project due to its constantly escalating cost estimates, a lack of cooperation between the scientists and the U.S. Department of Energy officials who were managing the project, and a lack of political will due to the end of the Cold War. Today, what's left of the Super Collider's tunnels collects rainwater, and the biggest discoveries of modern physics are made in Europe, including the monumental discovery of the Higgs particle, which was famously announced on the 4th of July. While the United States Science Project was busy collecting rainwater, Myanmar's government began secretly constructing a glorious new national capital, Naypyidaw, the Adobe of Kings. They found the old capital of Yangon to be overcrowded, congested, and unfit for the military government's goals for the nation. Finished in 2012, the opulent city is reported to be an estimated 1,800 square miles, which is 6 times the size of New York City. It stands in stark contrast to the poverty of the rest of the country, as everything is large and excessive. Rows of detached buildings, villa-style hotels, oversized retail malls, and 20-lane highways large enough to land a plane. The opening of the city coincided with a period of liberalization and democracy in the nation, so there was a reason to be optimistic. But the city is basically a ghost town. Civil engineers were instructed to relocate, but many decided to remain in Yangon with their families. Diplomats and international aid workers prefer to hold meetings in Naypyidaw rather than establish a permanent presence. The persistent shortage of healthcare facilities, a scarcity of high-quality educational institutions, and an overall lack of economic opportunities has kept the majority of the population from making the Adobe of Kings their permanent home. It looks like most of this master plan city will be just collecting dust. Our last mega project is still ongoing. It's had its fair share of challenges, but time will tell if it's truly a disaster. But before we get into the final project, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more. San Francisco is in the process of transforming its Shipyard into a waterfront community with housing, office space, green space, shopping, and restaurants. When conceived, construction was expected to cost $8 billion and was expected to finish in the early 2030s. Any red flags? After several hundred condominiums were built and sold, it was revealed that the shipyard was utilized for clandestine testing, decontamination, and disposal of U.S. Navy ships from the 1940s to 60s, and the land is still contaminated. This revelation became especially problematic after the U.S. Navy found evidence of environmental fraud being committed by Tetra Tech EC, the firm hired to ensure that the site was safe and free of radiation. The Environmental Protection Agency has since conducted an independent investigation and found that between 90 and 97% of the soil samples used by Tetra Tech EC are neither reliable nor defensible. In other words, they were falsifying their data test with potentially morbid consequences. So many lawsuits have been filed against the developer, the testing company, the U.S. Navy, and a host of other parties. That this redevelopment project has become one of the biggest cases of environmental fraud in U.S. history. Plenty of the litigation has been settled, and authorities feel like they have a strategy to move forward with this project while keeping the public safe. However, there is still cause for concern. Thousands of people now live here, and high levels of, quote, contaminants of concern have been detected in current residents. Local physician Ahimsa Porter Sumchai started a nonprofit called the Hunters Point Community Biomonitoring Program to test urine samples, map serious illnesses like cancer and lung disease to residential zones, and advocate for their community. Mostly comprised of people of color, and has not gotten much of an audience. Is this another megaproject disaster with high financial and human costs waiting to happen? Only time will tell. Are there any other megaproject disasters you know of? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to check out your favorite video here. Till then, see you next time.